First things first, let's get one thing straight, right? This heckle is forbidden, yeah? This heckle, I will cut you, yeah? Yeah? Every single gig. Think you're funny, right? Like, oi, are you an 8th century Anglo-Saxon? Am I fuck? An 8th century Anglo-Saxon. I'm clearly a Viking, right? And these goddamn Anglo-Saxon punks are gonna get what's coming to them, right? They've won all the wars, they've taken all the jobs, they've driven the Vikings out of the country. I just don't appreciate being compared to them, right? I'm clearly a Viking, right? I'm clearly a 10th century Viking who moved to the city of Jorvik from Denmark. I'm clearly, authentically dressed as that from head to toe. Ignore the shoes. Ignore the shoes. I have bowling later. Just makes things a little bit easier. Sorry to start out on an aggressive front. It's just important to lay down some ground rules in case things get leery, yeah? Quickly, just trigger warnings for this show. If you are an Anglo-Saxon, I will not hesitate to pull my trigger and shoot you in the head, right? I am a Viking, right? Or rather, I was a Viking. I was a Viking for a year, as you can see here. Which, yeah, may very much sound like I've gone completely mad. It is quite possible that I have. I'm also aware I don't necessarily resemble your traditional Viking warrior. You're all thinking it. You're all thinking it. This short-haired, chubby weirdo, a Viking warrior? Yeah, well, chubby seems kind of mean. And you're hurting my feelings. Vikings do have feelings, you know. He's not even got a proper beard. Yeah, I know. If I try and grow a beard, it just comes out as a ginger goatee, and I just look like I shouldn't be within a 5-mile radius of any school, right? My beard is less Old Norse and more Old Nonce. So I try and keep the facial hair to a necessary minimum. Despite these physical inadequacies, thank you so much for pointing them out. For a year, my official job title was Viking, which is a very weird thing to put on a tax form, which is why, for a year, I avoided tax. I didn't. Don't come for me, HMRC. Jesus. It still seems like you're all a bit confused, and that's understandable. I haven't really given you enough context. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of this story. This story begins, as all middle-class stories do, at the University of Exeter. I was coming to the end of my time there. I can't remember what I studied. It might have been history. It might have been who can down a bottle of wine the fastest and not be sick. I'm not quite sure. I got to the end of my time there, and I didn't really know what I was doing, right? I didn't really feel like a man. I didn't really feel like a boy. To be fair, I probably least felt like a Viking. Although I did sacrifice that goat, but that was in a completely unrelated incident. That was purely sexual. So. After university, a lot of my friends got what I will disdainfully refer to throughout the rest of this show as proper jobs, right? Proper bullshit Anglo-Saxon middle-class jobs, right? Proper fucking jobs. Proper jobs that happen in a place that I'm aware of. It's called the real world, right? And the way in which you get to these jobs in the real world, right, is you go underground into a big metal tube, you get funneled underneath the city, and then you go up in these really, really tall buildings, and you sit in a cubicle, and you stare at a screen for 10 hours a day, right? That's the real world, right, where these proper jobs are, yeah? That's where that all is, right? Proper jobs is shit like being a consultant, in which people come, and they ask you about things, and sometimes they don't. I don't know what consultants actually do, honestly. The amount of times I ask my friend what they do, and they're like, oh, I'm a consultant. Like I'm supposed to know what that means, right? To me, that's basically you saying, I do a job for work, right? I didn't want one of those proper jobs. I didn't. You're all looking at me like I couldn't have got one, just because I'm standing on stage dressed up as a Viking and shouting at you, which, fair enough. But I could have got one. I could. And I did. No, really, I did. I was offered a job on the civil service fast stream. Very prestigious. Thank you very much, the University of Exeter. Now, it seems like you don't necessarily know what the civil service fast stream is, or you'd be a lot more fucking impressed right now, yeah? And no, it is not a very powerful jet of water that Suella Braverman uses to blast refugees back to France. But it is, in fact, a prestigious route into the heart of British government. I mentioned the fact that I got onto the civil service here, not to show off much, not to show off, but to show that my parents are still proud of me, right? And they do still have something to brag about in middle-class parent circles before sighing and muttering, if only. And also I mentioned it to show off, right? Not everyone get on the civil service fast stream, and I only got on because of how fucking clever I am, yeah? And I need you to remember that, because the next 40 minutes, it's really not going to seem like I am. Also, apologies that the structure of this show is a bit all over the place, so Suella is going to be up there leering down at all of us for significantly longer than I would have liked. I also tend to play in smaller venues so far, so she's not normally that fucking big, right? That is scary, isn't it? I didn't want to join the civil service, right? Not just because of Suella, also because of Gove. They're all weird people, right? I didn't want to join the civil service. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I definitely knew that I didn't want to do that, right? I think on balance, my parents probably did want me to do that. I think the University of Exeter definitely wanted me to do that, to hop on that middle-class route, follow it along, and in 10 years' time be skiing down the slopes of Val d'Isere with a miserable wife and a disappointing child called Wilberforce or something. Just ploughing down some double, triple, double, quadruple, double, fluple, double, diamond black, and then just letting Gwyneth Paltrow ski into me. I fucking hate skiing. So, I turned down the civil service fast stream. Fine, poor reaction there. There's normally a lot more shocks, right? A lot more gasping there. That is the big revelation of the opening act, right? You don't seem anywhere near shocked enough, right? That is the big revelation, right? If I was playing in some middle-class suburbs of your city, right, I bet a bottom dollar, right, a middle-class mother would have fainted there and then, right? Did a show in Barnes 2 weeks ago, wiped out half the front row, that Joe did. And that is the big revelation. It's the big revelation. You know, the fuck off, Suella. So, no civil service. Well, what now? A couple of my friends were moving up to the city of York, so on a whim, I decided that I would join them up there. And my parents said this is a really stupid idea, and if I did that, they'd give me absolutely no money at all, which caused a problem for this little middle-class boy. Please feel sorry for me. It's imperative that you sympathise with my situation. It caused a problem. That problem was a complete lack of money, and you do need money to live, as far as I'm aware. So I came up with a very clever plan to counter this, a plan I like to call the not have no money plan. The not have no money plan. Point one of the not have no money plan was to get a job, which is the normal way people go about solving the problem of not having no money. But remember, I ruled out a whole host of bullshit Anglo-Saxon middle-class jobs just to make the whole thing a little bit harder for myself, right? Point two of the not have no money plan, slightly more outlandish. This was to win a game show, which in the long-term financial planning of the year is not particularly sound, and it's probably a fucking stupid idea. Not my words there. The words of my lovely mother. So, point one brings us back to where we started. I remember going to the Viking Centre as a child and thought, what with my newfound history degree, they might be able to employ me in some capacity, maybe as one of their Vikings. So I applied there, had an interview there where I rocked up, covered from head to toe in the blood of the Anglo-Saxons. And I didn't get the job. Apparently rocking up covered from head to toe in the blood of the Anglo-Saxons is an HR violation these days, right? These goddamn wokies, yeah? When will it stop? No, really, I didn't get the job. I was wandering around London despondent, thinking maybe I was going to have to accept one of those bullshit Anglo-Saxon middle-class jobs. Maybe that was what I was going to have to do. I was wandering around London. At this point, tipping point, the game show yet to respond to my many insistent emails. But the not have no money plan was off to a really, really bad start. To compound things, after my job rejection, as I wandered around London, despondent, smarting from being rejected, I found that the Viking Centre had launched a massive new marketing initiative in conjunction with LNER. So as I walked around London, these are the posters that greeted me everywhere I went. I'm sure everyone in this room has received job rejections before, right? But never before has a job rejection seem so intensely personal as to actually follow you the fuck around, right? It's like if you interviewed to be a consultant and they didn't want to hire you because they didn't want you asking their questions. I still don't know what they do. And the CEO of the company just followed you around telling you that you weren't good enough, that you were failing as a middle-class child, and that York was only a swift 1 hour, 51 minutes away by train. That is quick. No, it is. It's a really quick train. No, LNER's doing really good work. Honestly. It's a really quick train. I can't stress that enough. They're not sponsoring the show. I'd love it if they did. No, it's an excellent train service. No shade on them. And it's really quick. So I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. Things were looking quite bleak. So I turned to drastic measures. I did something drastic, something I don't normally like doing, right? And that was I asked for feedback, right? Now, I tend to dislike asking for feedback because I tend to disagree with everything that everyone says that's negative about me, right? They're stupid and they're wrong and they just haven't understood what I was going for. Which probably means I'm exactly the sort of person who should, fucking listen to feedback. So I asked the Viking Centre for feedback on what had gone wrong, and their feedback was, you got the job, actually. Which, as feedback goes, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I was right, they were wrong. I was right, they were wrong. I was right. So the lesson here is, kids, always ask for feedback. Always listen to feedback. Although if any of you give this show a bad review, I will pillage your towns. Don't think I won't. So there you have it. I became a Viking. We're back to where we started. Now, I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I just knew that I needed some time to figure things out, away from middle-class expectation, right? I decided the best place to find that was 1,000 years underground, back in time, in the past, in a museum. That's where I could escape all this middle-class nonsense. But you're never safe from the middle class. Especially when you work in a fucking museum. They love museums, the middle class. Just wandering in, just pretending they know what's going on, half reading a caption of something, before wandering off into the gift shop to buy something. Probably a book they'll never fucking read. I thought I'd be safe from middle-class expectation, 1,000 years back in time, in the dark, but I could not have been more wrong, right? I was tormented throughout this entire year by these Anglo-Saxon middle-class bastards, right? Trying to drive me out of my genuinely enjoyable job into the hands of a middle-class, middle-of-the-road, middle manager, right? I tried my very hardest to resist these forces. These forces, these Anglo-Saxon middle-class demons, they came down to torment me in the guise of the stupidest customers known to mankind. Now, as I say, I did my best to resist these forces over the year with mixed results, admittedly mixed results, as we will see throughout the duration of the show. Just to give you a bit of a sense of my strange year, I'm going to give you a virtual tour around the museum, and you can see how good I was at resisting these middle-class Anglo-Saxon demons. So the first room you come to in the museum is the archaeological dig. So give me a second, I'm going to get into customer service mode and be right back with you. Hello! Welcome down to the Jorvik Viking Centre. What you can see under the glass here is a replica of the archaeological dig that was on this site back in the 1970s. Yes, that's right, a replica. Yes, that means it's not real. Yes, well done you. Yes, not real. Yes, no, it's not the real dig. That's not the real dig. No, it's not the real dig because we dug it up. Right, this is a copy. Yes, right. It's not the real dig because we dug it up because that's what you do in a fucking dig. So as you can see, customer service very much my forte. There's this old maxim that the customer is always right. That's wrong, right? What the customer is stupid, really irritating, and in the case of these Anglo-Saxon middle-class spirits, actively fucking evil, right? There was one time this woman came in. She was like, excuse me. Do you work here? Well, it's very odd if I'm dressed like this and I don't. Well, yes. I'd just like to know, how on earth did you know what was under the ground? How do we know what was under the ground? This archaeological dig, how do we know how do we figure out what was under in this dig? How do we know what was in this archaeological dig? How do we know what was under the ground? Well, we just looked at it really fucking hard. Oh, really? No, we dug it up. For fuck's sake! Apparently, you can't say "for fuck's sake" to a customer, even if they are a total moron, right? Another time, this man came in. He was like, "Excuse me, mate. Excuse me. I'd like to know. I'd like to know. Do you find anything interesting in the dig? Do you find anything interesting in the dig?" Did we find anything interesting in this archaeological dig that we have replicated on the floor? Did we find anything interesting on which the museum is based, this archaeological dig? Did we find it on which we based an entire museum? Did we find it? No, we just found a load of mud and worms. It's all just mud and worms. Enjoy. We found around 40,000 different Viking Age artifacts. It completely revolutionized the way we even actually viewed the Viking world, right? Textbooks were completely rewritten. The way it was taught in schools completely changed. And I don't think you care about this quite as much as I do. The most consistently irritating question we got, though, was whether any of this was real. Like, excuse me, is this real? Is it real? Is any of this real? Are you even real? Which is a very existential question to be asked on a day-to-day basis when you're doubting your validity as a middle-class child and you're rapidly approaching your quarter-life crisis, or midlife crisis if you don't live that long, or whole-life crisis if it's a really bad day. Just as a quick side note, I do think we should start using the term whole-life crisis to refer to death, right? To add a bit of a touch of whimsy to proceedings, like, oh, have you seen Brian recently? These accents, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth till they do. Have you seen Brian recently? Oh, no, very sadly, I've not seen Brian. No, he's... Oh, no, Brian's going through a whole life crisis at the moment. Oh, no, that is just so sad. Yes, he's bought himself a very expensive coffin, compensated for a complete lack of life, apparently. I just think we should start using that to add a touch of whimsy to proceeding, but that man is sounded a bit like Sean Connery, I suppose. Is any of this real? And what I want to say is does it matter, right? Because the representation of history, in some ways, has been perfectly replicated by people who've done such thorough research into these artifacts. That actual representation is more engaging in some ways than a rotting pile of actual artifact actually is, and it actually communicates and educates people better because you can see what that actually would have looked like rather than seeing something just completely rotting away, right? And surely it doesn't matter if I'm not a real middle-class child and I'm not on the civil service fast stream, as long as I'm doing a job that I actually, like. This may have got a little bit too personal and is spiraling down a dangerous route. So let's just hop onto the ride, shall we? Might be more our speed, right? Welcome to the ride. Get on the ride. Get on the ride. Get on the ride. It isn't scary. Get on the ride. Thank you. And as you are getting onto the ride, please ensure that your head does not collide with the headrests. As you can see, they do stick out just a little bit. Oh, and I should ensure that my cranium does not collide with your capsule. Yes, try not to. And I should make sure not to bonk my lovely bonks onto your seats. And I should ensure that my noggin does not... Ow! Fuck you, you fucking Saxon wanker! Why didn't you warn me about the headrest? I'm not a Saxon. I'm not. That was really hurtful. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. If it makes you feel any better, this conversation never actually happened in real life. Well, don't tell them that. Well, I had to. I didn't want them thinking I was cruel. You're an invented straw man customer I created so I could vent my anger about the stupidity of the general public. I think this bit might be going over their heads. Don't tell me how to do my show! That customer died due to brain trauma. Oh, he didn't. He wasn't real. The ride is excellent, though. The ride is actually really, really good. It's very realistic. It immerses you completely in the world of the Vikings, including the sights, the sounds, and the smells, right? But the smells, they do confuse some people a little bit because they are very realistic and very pungent. For example, one woman, she was coming around the ride. She was like, she was sniffing. She wasn't doing cocaine. You're not allowed to do cocaine in the music. Excuse me. Do you know? There's a smell. There's a smell on the ride. There's a smell. Is that deliberate? There's a smell. Is that deliberate? Was it deliberate, like if we just accidentally opened up a sewage pipe in the middle of the ride and we're just letting it gush out? We're not the British government, for fuck's sake. Jesus. Yes, the smell is deliberate. You stupid, stupid woman. I couldn't reason with her. She was coked out of her mind, but... The smell is very realistic, as is the vast majority of the content on the ride, or there is part of it that has some of the commentary as you go around the ride that has a lovely carry-on style sense of humour, very outdated, right? There's this part of the ride where you're going past this lovely couple over here, right? And the commentary says, here's Ivar and I'm doing the voice. That's spot on. Sounds like a knockoff Sean Bean. No, it's bang on. Here's Ivar and Hilda outside their house, arguing over what to have for dinner. Has anything really changed in 1,000 years? Which you should be finding a lot funnier than you are, right? Because there is no archaeological evidence for this at all, right? They have made it up, yeah? It wasn't like there was an archaeologist who did a little dig and was like, oh, we discovered this grave, and you can tell from the assorted jewellery buried with Ivar that he was really rather fucked off that Hilda had made spag bol yet again. There is no evidence for this. Over there, you can see Ivar's mother-in-law being a fat, whiny bitch. Has anything really changed in 1,000 years? I don't know, Sean Bean knockoff. Sounds like you should be having a word with your wife and her family. It wasn't Sean Bean. We all know what Sean Bean looks like. There's the lovely Sean Bean, the evolution of Sean Bean throughout time. It wasn't Sean Bean who did the commentary. It just sounded like him. And the fact that it wasn't Sean Bean was a blessed relief to one man who was getting off the ride. He came round like this. That wasn't Sean Bean, was it? No, lots of people think that. It just sounds a bit like Sean Bean, but it's not actually Sean Bean. Good. I'm glad. You're glad? Yes! I hate Sean Bean. Why are you laughing? I despise the bean. Please, can someone help me? I'm very scared. Sean Bourne can rot in hell. What had Sean Bean done to this man? Had Sean Bean killed his wife? Was he Sean Bean in disguise testing me? It does seem unlikely, but if there's any representatives of Mr. Bean in the audience tonight, I would watch out for this man. He could be a real danger to your client. No, there never any of Sean Bean's representatives in, but it's always worth just making sure and identifying. Now, honestly, the ride is really, really good, and it's one of the best parts about the museum because it represents history in a way that's not like Disney-fied and is actually engaging for kids. So there's one of the really enjoyable parts of the ride is seeing how much kids enjoy it. And one time, this young family was coming around the ride, and I was responsible for getting them off. Oh, not like that. Oh, not like that. Behave yourselves. I said young family. I said young. Disgusting. So the dad comes towards me. I pull him off. No, not like that. And he starts telling me, he's like, the kids really, honestly, they really, really loved the ride. They really, really engaged with it in a really tactile way. The sights and the sounds and the smells really brought that Viking age to life. And the realism of the ride is really powerful to them because they learn history in a way they wouldn't necessarily if they were just reading textbooks or just looking at artifacts. It's so tactile and so beautiful. So thank you so much for that. And if it's possible, if we go back round on the ride again, they just enjoyed it so much. If there's any chance of going back round on that ride, that'd be really amazing. And also my daughter has pissed all over the seats, which you should open with, right? That should not be your headliner, because I could not give less of a shit how much you've enjoyed the realism of the ride if I'm about to have to mop up a load of piss. And on that occasion, to be fair, the The smell was not deliberate. Speaking of incontinence, and the most disgusting transition in the show, we had a lot of old people who came down the ride. And old people came with an unintended perk. And when I say it's a perk, you're going to think I'm a complete and utter sociopath, right? Because I very often got to tell old people they were wrong about their own memories, right? Like the worst dementia counsellor in the world, right? They would come round, they'd be like this, they'd be like, this will be a walking stick. Last time I came, I walked round here, which, no you didn't. No one has. You're wrong, and you're mad, and you're wrong, and you're stupid, and you're wrong, and you're senile, and you're wrong, and you're mad. Wow, sorry. Didn't realise we had so many future old people in the audience. I guess I'm just jealous of them, truth be told, because, like, they had a damn simple path to follow, didn't they? They finished school. Maybe they went to university. Maybe they didn't really matter. They got a job. By 25, they got married. They bought a house for £7.50 and a sly wink. And their lives were sorted. It was a prescriptive route. It was prescriptive, right? You had to follow it. You got on the ride and you followed it around. You got on the ride and you followed it around. There wasn't room for deviation, right? I understand that. You just got on the ride and you followed it around, right? It's prescriptive, but just got on the ride and you follow it around and the ride doesn't get lost, right? I'm 24 and I'm pretty lost. I've had friends that have been working in proper jobs for like 4 years and I'm just like dressed up as a Viking, shouting at people. I could be on the civil service fast stream, sending anyone who I wanted to Rwanda just for a laugh if they didn't know me. Oh, fuck off, Suella! How do you keep getting up there? Jesus. Let's look at some artifacts, shall we, before I am fucking sick. So, one of the most enjoyable parts of the job was getting to chat to kids and adults, especially kids, about these artifacts, giving little talks to them. I really like chatting to kids because, and I say this kindly, kids are so bloody stupid, right, in the best possible way. Right, for example, let's do a quick guessing game with the audience now. What do you think this artifact might be? Any ideas? Feel free to shout out. And sausage? Not a sausage.
Ice skate.
Viking sausages would have eroded by now, I've got to say, after 1,000 years. Ice skate is absolutely spot on. That is a Viking ice skate. Very well done. It's not what one child said. One child was like, is it a gun? It's not a Viking gun. Another time, I did a talk to a group of German exchange students, which was particularly tricky because my German was about as good as their English. In other words, Bullscheitzer, right? So it's kind of tricky. Also, a lot of the German I did know, I learned from GCSE, from watching the film Downfall, right? So that was kind of complicated because a lot of the phrase... Sorry. In a show about Vikings, given the historical connection between Nazis and Vikings, it's really not a very good idea to have a picture of a Nazi up on screen. So I'm really, really sorry about that. We'll make sure there's no more pictures of Nazis up on the screen for the rest of the show. So let's just move to the next slide. Oh, what did I just say? Naughty PowerPoint. Suella, if you're watching, that wasn't me. That was the PowerPoint. Okay, back to the artifacts. I was just waggling this around. It is an ice skate. Absolutely well done. The Vikings like to ice skate. That's not funny. That's just true. They did. Just wiggling this around to this group of German exchange students, just decrying the fact that the Americans and the Soviets were closing in. It's the least responsive audience I've ever played to. Until tonight, I've been meaning to ask, are you lot a German exchange group? No, you're not organised well enough, are you? Another time, there's a group of school children coming in. So let's just pretend now there's school children coming in. Let's suspend disbelief together. There they are at the back. Don't need to look around. So children, in an area of about this size, about the size of the stage, that's the average size of a Viking house. So children, in an area of about this size, right, how many Vikings do we think might have lived in this house? Oh, pick me. Pick me. I'm a child. Yes, the freakishly tall 10-year-old in the front row. Oh, I think in a house of this size, 40 Vikings would have lived here. No. This is quite a small house, isn't it? Remember, it's a little bit less than 40, right? That'd be a bit of a squish. Remember, the Vikings, they weren't 2D, right? So it's a little bit less than 40. Any other guesses? Oh, yes, pick me. Oh, God, it's such a tight squeeze down here. Oh, no, pick me. Fuck me, this is going to be awful. Yes, you, child in the second row. Oh, yes. I'm much like the first child. I think in this house, 80 Vikings would have lived here. No. It's a good guess, but 80's more than 40, isn't it? Oh. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, yes, no. Yes. Shut up and speak to your maths teacher and fuck off. That is a tight aisle. This next bit's going to be a fucking nightmare. All right, children. Less than 40. I'm going to give you one last guess. Less than 40. Remember, it's not a very big house. Any guesses? Jesus. Oh, pick me! I'm all the way at the back. Oh, fuck's sake. Yes, you. All the way at the back. That's much easier, actually. 5,000! I hit that dickhead there and then. I hit him. I'll be back at the stage in a moment. That normally goes smoother, that bit. I hit him. I hit that dickhead. A lot of people don't like me pretending to hit a fictional 10-year-old and call him a dickhead, which is fair enough. It's probably points out that the Viking Museum does not condone the hitting of children, unless, of course, they are incredibly, incredibly stupid. I guess with these kids, right, it's the same as it is with the old people, right? I'm just a bit jealous of them, right, because they have all their hopes and their dreams ahead of them, right? They want to be footballers, fairies, firefighters, friars. Well, not friars, but I got carried away with the alliteration. Are any of them longing for the moment they can finally call themselves an executive consultant, right? Are they hoping for their first banker's bonus? No. Just live their hopes and their dreams intact, right? When these kids, when they hear the term proper job, right? All these kids think about is the Cornish beer. That's all these kids think about. Speaking of beer, we're about 3/4 of the way through the year now, right? And I'm rapidly running out of money, as well as of self-belief. It was time to return to the very well-considered and very well thought-out not have no money plan. Now, point one of the not have no money plan, we remember, was to get a job. And I actually am enjoying the job, right? I know it seems like I'm complaining a lot, but I'm not fending off these Anglo-Saxon middle-class demons, right? I am actually having a genuinely good time, right? I am actually enjoying it. Point two of the not have no money plan, lest we forget, was to win a game show, which you may have thought was just a throwaway joke just to kick it off, like my mother had hoped, but no. I made winning a game show a central part of my financial plan for the year. I'm aware this is quite stupid, but I also really, really needed it to work. Also, just a quick side note, if you came to this show expecting an educational romp through the world of the Vikings, you're probably aware that that's not what this show is. This next section really isn't about Vikings at all. Quite frankly, I could take off this tunic and put on my jazzy game show jacket, but I'm not wearing anything underneath this tunic, and those goddamn Saxons stole my jazzy game show jacket! I thought it'd be easy, right, to get on a game show, right, win a solid minimum of £5 and just chase those doubts slightly further away, just hold the bridge against middle-class expectation for just a little bit longer, right? I'm aware this is a very outlandish plan and it probably wasn't going to work, but also, I really thought it might. So I applied to the BBC quiz show, Pointless. I applied to Pointless, having been previously rebuffed from the ITV game show Tipping Point. I was so clever, I would have embarrassed the other contestants. My words, not theirs. Their words were, how did you get into this studio? And why are you dressed like a Saxon nonce? So I decided to part ways with Tipping Point. So I went for Pointless instead. Now, Pointless has a couple of problems in comparison to Tipping Point. Pointless is actually quite difficult, right? Tipping Point is for essentially the brain dead, and they can win that pretty easily. Pointless is a little bit harder, right? And even if you beat all the other competitors, right, you don't necessarily win the money. You get the trophy, but you don't get the money. And the money is very much what I needed in this instance, right? The other problem with Pointless in comparison to Tipping Point is you have to go on as a pair. Now, I was already very delusional, as you can see, but I needed a friend to share the delusion. And the problem was, most of my friends were already far too far down the middle-class path to need to rely on a random windfall from a random game show, right? Dickheads, yeah? But I did have one friend who I was able to convince because she was studying, and get this, international human rights law. She's now working in a charity. Disgusting. What's in it for you? She was meant to be in the audience tonight, but she's not, so fuck her. She agreed to apply to go on Pointless with me. I think she mostly agreed to apply because she didn't think that we'd actually get on the show. I think there, somebody underestimated my wit and my charm. Lest we forget, I was once offered a pretty prestigious role in the heart of British government. Sorry. Thought Suella might be there, she's not. So we applied, heard back a couple of weeks later, and we were going on Pointless. Woo! Woo! Bit delayed, but that's fine. Number one, if you're in this room and you're not aware of the TV show Pointless, get out! Nothing to do around here, so you can just walk around for a while. Fuck you. Don't actually leave, though, please. Don't actually leave. If you're not aware of what Pointless is, it's a game show that rewards getting the most obscure, correct answers to questions, right? There'll be a big question, lots of answers, and you have to give the one that the least people might know, right? So I started swatting up on lots of pointless knowledge, right? Things like the chemical formula for iron and the date of my grandmother's birthday. Just pointless information that you'll never actually need. Got a lot of capital cities locked away in my brain as well, like, what's the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina? What's the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina? Anyone know what's the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina? Could be. I didn't learn that one, to be fair. Should probably only ask the ones I know, actually. Otherwise I look a bit stupid up on here. Sorry about that. So armed with all this pointless knowledge, we were ready to head to the exciting studio location of Elstree Studios in Boreham Wood. Anyone in from Boreham Wood tonight? There never is. There never is, because why would you ever leave Boreham Wood? It has every corporate pizza chain you could possibly want. It's like Hollywood if you took the word Holly and replaced it with Boreham. It's a magical, magical place. Magical. So on the day of our recording, we were taken from our luxury accommodation, Reed Travelodge, and we were driven to Elstree Studios for filming in a lovely black cab, a bit like this one here. The cabbie, particularly interested in my job. I don't really think he understood how history works, though. So this is a bit like how that conversation went. This is a steering wheel. It'll become apparent throughout the duration of this bit that I don't have a driving license in terms of how I'm using this steering wheel. Almost immediately apparent. Oh, yeah, you work in a museum, do you? You work in a museum? What sort of artefacts? What sort of things have you got in that museum of yours? We've got a Viking sock. That's probably our most famous artefact. Oh, yeah! Viking sock! Viking sock! Oh, yeah! Yeah. How old's that? It's about 1,000 years old. The Vikings were in Britain around 1,000 years ago, so all of our artifacts are 1,000 years old. Oh, yeah! What else? What else have you got in that museum of yours? We've got some amber jewellery. Amber in particular, very precious to the Vikings. They actually thought amber formed from the tears of their goddesses. Oh yeah! Amber jewellery! Amber jewellery! Tears of the goddesses! Amber jewellery! How old is that? It's also, again, about 1,000 years old, you see. Most of our artefacts, they're about 1,000 years old. Oh, yes! Yes, yes, yes! Yes, yes! What else? What else have you got in that museum of yours? We've got some Viking weapons, some swords and arrowheads and the like. Also, do you just mind, could you just keep your eyes on the road? I'm a bit... Swords! Arrowheads! Swords! Arrowheads! Swords! Arrowheads! And how old is they? Also, about 1,000 years old, for the love of God. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You got any trains? You got any trains in that museum there of yours? There I do think he was confusing us with the National Railway Museum, another popular museum in York, but I decided to humour him anyway. Yeah, we've got loads and loads of Viking trains. Oh yeah, Viking trains, Viking trains, Viking trains, Viking trains. And how old is they? Also 1,000 years old. Wow! The Vikings was well ahead of their times, weren't they? Mind you, I do think some more a fan of the Snacksnans, truth be told. Stop the cab! Jumped out, walked the rest of the way to the studio. It's about 20 metres, we were already there. It's quite impotent. I will not be spoken to like that. Went and cooled off in our dressing room. Here is our lovely dressing room, as you can see. Lovely. I felt like Robert De Niro in that it was the room of a dirty grandpa. Cooled off in the dressing room, and then we were ready to head onto a Pointless. Oh, yes. Very exciting. Some of you in this room may have seen my episodes of Pointless. Tom from Pointless. I'm a pretty famous man, hoping to be on the next series of Celebrity Pointless. Here's my card. If you need to contact me. For those of you who haven't seen my episodes, if you're just working your way through, starting at the beginning of Pointless, sequentially going through, so you don't miss any of the plot developments, any of the dramatic moments that occur throughout that, feel absolutely free to head off now and to catch up, starting at Series 1, and you can work your way through to Series 28 and come back and see my show. I estimate it'll take 2 to 3 years, but there are a lot of plot twists along the way that you really do want to keep up with. Right, now that they're gone, we can talk Pointless spoilers. Wasn't it mental when they killed off Richard Osman? I mean, getting all those old people to do it as well, that was just cruel, right? I mean, talk about Thursday Murder Club. They should have used the club just to put him out of his misery. So we had a new host jumping into Richard Osman's sizable shoes before they'd even have a chance to scrape the brains off the podium. Our new host was Alex Brooker, if you must know, from The Last Leg. Don't like to name drop, but me and Alex, we're pretty tight. He told me the answers to some questions. I nodded inanely. We're close. I also met Alexander Armstrong, or Xander, as he likes to be known. Came up to me. I do not trust that man. Came up to me. He was a bit like this. He was like trying to chat to me. Doing daytime TV banter. I didn't want to chat to him. I was a bit nervous, basically. But I hate him. He was like, so, Tom. He'd read my name tag. He doesn't know people's names. He doesn't care. So, Tom, what do you do for a living? And I was like, I'm a Viking. But, oh, yeah, that's so interesting. How do you find that? Do you enjoy it? It's all right. Oh, yeah. Tell me a fun Viking fact. I was like, what? Can't you use Google? It was classic daytime TV stuff. I do not trust that man. I must stress this. Now, I know you'll probably think that I'm really stupid. Over the course of this show, I haven't given you very much evidence to the contrary. But we actually did do pretty well on Pointless. We did. At the second time of asking, we even won the Pointless Trophy. Woo, there we go. Fuck it out. Wake up! Switch on! You're not a German exchange student, any better from you. We even won the Pointless Trophy. Now, the Pointless Trophy, that's all well and good, right? The Pointless Trophy brings honour and glory. That's great for me as a Viking, but it doesn't bring money, unless you forget the money was the thing that I desperately needed, right? Honour and glory is all good, but you can't actually currently exchange it for a meal deal at Tesco, right? So I needed the money. In order to win the money, to fend off these middle-class expectations, these demons coming down at me, I had to answer one last question, one last jackpot question, giving a pointless answer. My one last question was on the theatre. Fuck! Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know shit about no theatre. I've not been to the theatre before. The theatre's for nerds. I don't know shit about no theatre. I certainly don't know who was nominated for the 2019 Tony Awards. No one knows that! Not even Tony! So we give our pathetic little answers. Then Xander does this thing. He's a very cruel man, as I've told you. He's very cruel. He does this thing, and bear in mind he's cackling throughout. He's cackling at you. He asks you this question. He knows your answers are wrong. He already knows your answers are wrong in his own head, and he's cackling at you. He's like, so, what would you do with the money if you won? What I wanted to say is well, Xander, that there's a cost of living crisis on. Everything's really expensive. I'm kind of struggling a little bit at the moment. A lot of my friends have gone down a more conventional route, a more middle-class route, and it's a route lined with gold. It's not necessarily a route that I want to follow. And fundamentally, maybe, Xander, I think there's something wrong in our current society about the way in which we're allocating economic resources to jobs that I don't feel actually serve any particular purpose. So, Xander, if that even is your real, actual name, I'll probably just use this money to just about stay alive. But I didn't say that. I said, for a holiday. Oh, fuck off. We got 3 big fat wrong answers, as you can see up there. There's this Viking legend, right, about a Viking at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. It was just before the Battle of Hastings. It was the Vikings versus the Saxons. He was holding that bridge single-handedly, just one Viking warrior, fighting off horde after horde of angry Saxons, trying to cross that bridge and trying to kill all his friends in the camp, right? He was just single-handedly holding that bridge, fending them all off, and that was my struggle. I relate to that. Just a single Viking, single-handedly holding the bridge against middle-class Saxon expectation. Admittedly, he was fighting off wave after wave of angry Saxon warriors, and I was facing the possibility of having to get a well-paid, if boring, job, but I'll let you decide whose struggle is greater. So anyway, he keeps holding on to this bridge, right, and the Saxons getting really frustrated. And what the sneaky fucking Saxons do, right, is they stick a load of Saxon warriors into a barrel, right, and with spears on there, and they float them down the river. They float them underneath the bridge, and when they get underneath the bridge, they take their spears and they stick it up through the bridge, straight up through the Viking's arse, killing him instantly. These 3 wrong answers, they're my Anglo-Saxon spear up the arse. Spirit gone. A whole life crisis of the soul. I had to relive it all when it was broadcast as well. I decided by then that I was going to be doing this show in order to recoup some of the losses of what I would have won on Pointless. I was going to do this show to recoup those losses. Because as we all know, there's no better moneymaker than Fringe Theatre. So when my show was on, I was trawling through the internet, looking for content, looking for things to react to, people being rude about me, people calling me a prick, people slagging me off, stuff I could talk about and bounce back to on stage. Looking all the way through Twitter, people slagging me off is what I wanted. And this is probably the least believable aspect of the entire show, right? The people on Twitter were so fucking nice, yeah? This is the first tweet. Tom is cute, right? That's me. Tom is cute. That's way too nice. That's with a little gif of Pedro Pascal just... Sexy, it's sexy when he does it. It's something else, right? Someone calling me a wanker. I'm not asking for creativity. Something aggressive, something I can react to, right? Let's see what else was out there. There was 2 nice couples on the head-to-head today. Nice! Nice! Do you have any idea how useless that is to my show? Nice! Come on, slag me off. That's all I need. Keep looking through, keep searching up for pointlessness. Yeah, I'm sure your mindless criticism of random Chinese citizens will make the government second-guess their actions and issue an apology immediately. Dehumanizing foreigners or enemies of the state is pointless. I see what's happened here. Blanket searching the term pointless. This politically controversial tweet has crept under the net. So let's get back to things, right? People being rude to me. There's got to be something out there, right? Let's have a look. A good head-to-head that. Good. Good. Wasn't even great. Good. No one's liked it. No one's liked that tweet. Waste of space. A waste of space. Right, this is the app that's almost single-handedly, right, destroying world democracy, yeah? It's run by an egotistical billionaire who's using the platform as his own joke farm, right? He's changing the name every 5 seconds, right? Every other tweet is someone mercilessly ripping the piss out of someone they've never even met, and I couldn't even get one person calling me a dickhead for my show. I despair at the kindness of this world. I really do. Let's go for one last tweet, see if there's anything else out there. Possibly reading too many hashtag pointless answers to the losers there as usual. Yeah, to be fair, that one I do agree with. Get all the answers wrong, obviously you do. They start reading out all the correct answers that would have won you all that money, that would have got you all those middle-class spirits off of your chest. You would have escaped for a little bit longer. They start telling you all the answers what you could have given. That's what Xander does. He tells you all the answers you could have given that would have won all that money. Each other additional answer, like an extra weight, pressing down on you, crushing you, and crushing you, right? Xander keeps on doing this. Obviously, he's cackling. He's always cackling throughout, right? And then what Xander does, right? Then what he does is he wheels out all the money you would have won in a wheelbarrow. It's old £10 notes, old paper ones. I don't know where he's getting them from. And then he does this, and he's still cackling. Bear in mind, he's still cackling. He takes all your notes, and he starts burning them. He starts burning them. And he's laughing at you, and he's burning them. He's burning all this money. And then he told me, right? And then he told me, right, that he was the Anglo-Saxon middle-class king who'd been sabotaging me at every turn, right? He was the one that made sure that I didn't even get the job in the first place. He's the one that put the posters up all around London. He's the one that gave me that dickhead taxi driver. He's the one that stole my jazzy game show jacket, right? And he's the one, right, that all year long has been sending down these middle-class, Anglo-Saxon, evil spirits to torment me and drive me into a hellish circle of consultants, consulting for consultants. So he told me all this, right? And what I did is I took my pointless trophy and I bashed his head in. I bashed his head. I'll teach him for living. Only 1 hour, 51 minutes away from York by train. I returned to the Viking Centre. A venerated god for having vanquished the Saxon king, but that bit didn't actually happen. Or you'd have probably heard about it on the news, and they wouldn't let me talk about it on stage. There was a woman at an earlier show who came up to me afterwards, and she was like, I just can't believe how mean that man was to you, and all this horrible things. And he was burning your money. That's so horrible. And I was like, no, it's not real. None of this is real. A lot of thinking around this time, It seemed like I was in a pretty terrible place. It seemed like I was going to have to accept that middle class route. Maybe I was just going to have to start looking for jobs in recruitment, you know. Make an account on LinkedIn. Get really, really into skiing, buy my own skis and just start telling people that skiing is believing. I did a lot of thinking around this time, a lot of thinking in a part of the museum that I've not even actually told you about. There's a part of the museum, this is part of the ride, right? And what you do is you sit in that boat, right? You sit just up there, right? You are part of the ride. It is incredibly surreal, right? It is genuinely bizarre. You're surrounded by mannequins, and you don't necessarily feel any more real than them. Just wave at customers as they come round, just Gothen Dagen. There's an Irish slave woman. She's tied to your boats on the other side there. She's tied to your boat in a way that really makes you feel like you're the one that's enslaved her, but you can't help her because she's a mannequin and she isn't real. And her fingers feel like jelly. Then sometimes you'll be on there and everything will go really quiet. You won't have any customers coming around, and it all goes really, really quiet, and you're just sat there alone with the mannequins, and then the Irish slave woman will make her escape attempt. She doesn't succeed. She hasn't succeeded yet. She's a mannequin. And then it'll all go really quiet again. And in that really quiet moment when no customers are coming round, you'll hear what sounds like a small boy going, "Help me!" And in that moment, you can't help but think how different your life might have been if you were on the civil service fast stream. But no, you're sat on a boat, surrounded by mannequins, wondering if you're even real. And yet, to be fair, at every moment thinking that what you are doing is so much better, so much more human, so much more alive than being some fucking consultant, right? Because every moment of this sort of annoyance or frustration is offset by a moment of genuine wonder, of beauty, of the absurdity of life, right? Something really engaging, and you feel like you made a positive difference in someone's day. You've entertained them in some way, right? Just like an adult being wowed by a new fact, or a child marveling at a new object, or a conversation you'll have with someone that goes beyond work and into history, like real history. You get these beautiful, intimate moments, right? And just to finish off the show tonight, I'm going to tell you about one of those beautiful moments. I know you probably don't trust me to deliver a beautiful, intimate moment, given the tone of this show so far, but I will try my best. There's a point in the museum where you make Viking coins. Coins a bit like this one here. You sit at the station, you're hammering away at all of these coins, right? And there's this one time where a father and a son came round to have a talk from me. And the son comes up to me and he says, "Oh, is it okay if he does sign language interpretation for his father? Because his father is deaf." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's absolutely fine. My sign language is, I think that's bullshit. Or hemorrhoids, one or two." I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I talked to this kid. I give a bit of a talk about how the Vikings would have made their money. Probably be made out of silver, a bit like this here. What you do is you take a coin, a blank disc, you place it between two molds. Probably someone would just be holding it. And you whack down with a big old hammer while someone was just holding it, praying for dear life you didn't miss and shatter their fingers. And then I tell this kid a bit of a joke about what the Vikings would have spent their money on. I'm like, probably they'd have spent it on beer. And the kid laughs, and it's a lovely laugh. And he turns and interprets the whole thing for his father in sign language. And he gets the joke at the end about the beer, and the dad laughs and the kid laughs, and they share a lovely laughing moment. I'll tell you what, in that moment, it really did feel like a proper job. I really did feel real. And you don't get that as a fucking consultant.